The man in the shirt was kneeling before Emily, his face full of sincerity, as if he were about to pour out his heart.
Emily, I love you. I know I have a child and I may not deserve you, but I swear to the heavens, from now on, you will be my most cherished treasure. I will treat you well. Tommy lost his mother when he was young, and he will definitely treat you like his own mother.
The little boy standing next to Michael looked up at Emily with innocent eyes.
Mom!
Emily shuddered, a mix of fear and disgust surging through her.
Marry me.
Emily felt an overwhelming urge to vomit, and Michael was caught off guard, getting splashed in the face.
You!
The man reeked of sourness, unsure whether to put down the flowers or pretend to care for her first. Tommy immediately stepped back a few paces, clenching his fists, casting a hateful glance Emily's way. Suppressing her nausea, Emily hastily threw out a "we're not suitable" and fled. Michael couldn't care about anything else and took a few steps to catch up. Seeing this, Emily ran even faster, as if a demon were chasing her. As she neared home, Linda was anxiously looking out. Seeing Emily like this, she was startled.
What happened? Were you chased by a dog?
Close the door, quickly.
Though confused, Linda closed the door as Emily asked. Within seconds, Michael was at the gate, pounding on it loudly.
Emily, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Why did you run?
Go away. Don't stay at my door.
Emily was trembling all over, her mind filled with past images. Tommy, that little monster, had dismembered her in the kitchen, and Michael had arrived late, helping to dispose of her remains. Tommy, covered in blood, had smiled at him.
Dad, this woman didn't listen and wouldn't get me a new phone. I'll get you a new wife.
Michael hadn't scolded him but instead comforted him.
She was bad to you. If she's gone, she's gone. There are plenty of women in the world, but I only have one son.
Emily's spirit had floated nearby, unable to believe her ears. The man who had always been gentle and caring could say such cold and heartless words. People are indeed scarier than ghosts. Given a second chance by the heavens, Emily would never fall into the trap of this father and son under the guise of marriage again. Emily told Michael to leave, but he persisted, shouting her name.
Emily, what's wrong with you? Come out and see me. Didn't you say you wanted to be with me forever? What did I do to upset you? If I did something wrong, tell me, Emily. I'll change anything for you. Just don't leave me. I love you.
Michael's voice was hoarse from shouting, and the neighbors opened their doors to watch the commotion. Even Linda couldn't bear it.
We tried to talk you out of it before, but you insisted on marrying him. Now that we've finally agreed, why are you throwing a tantrum? What happened?
The more Emily heard his voice, the more terrified she became. She clung to her mom.
Mom, save me. I was out of my mind. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Linda's hand paused in midair, looking a bit stunned.
What happened to you out there? Did he bully you?
Emily shook her head, but she was still trembling. Linda gritted her teeth.
Are you sure you don't want to marry him?
Yes, I'm sure.
Without hesitation, Linda took a deep breath and shouted outside.
David, stop calling. Marriage is about mutual consent. I don't know what happened between you two, but it seems you aren't meant to be. I apologize and hope you find someone more suitable.
There was a moment of silence outside. Just when Emily thought it was over, there was a more violent banging on the door.
Mom! Didn't you say you would be my mom? You can't lie to a child. Come out!
The sharp voice pierced through the door, hitting her eardrums hard. Linda's determination was unwavering as she reassured me.
Yes, I'm sure.
Without hesitation, Linda took a deep breath, opened the window, and shouted outside.
David, stop calling. Marriage is about mutual consent. I don't know what happened between you two, but it seems you aren't meant to be. I apologize and hope you find someone more suitable.
There was a moment of silence outside. Just when I thought it was over, there was a more violent banging on the door.
Mom! Didn't you say you would be my mom? You can't lie to a child. Come out!
The sharp voice pierced through the door, hitting my eardrums hard. Linda opened the door and tiptoed in, her face etched with concern.
How are you feeling? If you're really unwell, we can go to the hospital in the city.
Mom, I'm fine. I just made you and Dad worry.
Before Emily could finish her sentence, she burst into tears. In her past life, she was blind to her parents' good intentions, easily swayed by Michael's words, and thought her parents had given up on her.
I was so foolish, Mom. I did so many things that hurt you and Dad.
After Tommy was arrested, Emily's parents went to find Michael, but he told them to look for her body in a dog's stomach. Linda was so angry she had a stroke and was bedridden, and John had to stay by her side, unable to seek justice from Michael and his father.
Heaven gave me another chance, and I will never let that scum go. Hatred finally overcame fear, and I held Linda's hand tightly. Michael, I will never let him go.
Linda was stunned and suddenly gritted her teeth.
That beast, how dare he?
Mom, it's not what you think. I had a dream today.
A dream? What kind of dream scared you like this?
Emily told her about the humiliation she suffered after marrying Michael, how she was mistreated by Tommy, and her tragic end. But even Linda found it hard to believe.
I never liked Michael, but to say he could do such things, it seems unlikely. Especially Tommy, he seemed like a well-behaved kid.
No, Tommy is troubled.
Shortly after marrying into their family, Tommy was expelled from school for injuring a classmate. Michael was always sighing at home, and Emily couldn't bear it. She begged and managed to get Tommy into an expensive private school. But within a month, he was called out for beating up a classmate.
I was humiliated in front of the teacher and the other parents. The teacher kindly suggested taking Tommy to the hospital for a checkup. Michael was furious, insisting Tommy was fine. But the school demanded a medical report, so Tommy reluctantly went to the hospital with me.
The tests revealed that Tommy had a rare chromosomal disorder, an extra Y chromosome, known as supermale syndrome. Such individuals are often violent and prone to aggressive behavior. When Emily brought the results home, Michael refused to accept them, accusing her of conspiring with the doctor to fake the report.
It wasn't until he took Tommy to a provincial hospital and got the same results that he apologized profusely. After the private school refused to take Tommy back, Michael begged me to pay a high transfer fee to get him into another school. I was foolish enough to be moved by his pleas and went through a lot of trouble.
But you said it was a dream. It might not be true.
It was indeed hard to believe. Emily thought for a moment and whispered,
Mom, did you and Dad plan to buy me a house in the city if I insisted on marrying Michael, to protect me from suffering? The new development, Jolin Garden, with a 140 square meter apartment?
Linda was shocked.
How did you know?
Emily told her a few more things, and finally, Linda believed her. Her eyes reddened, and she hugged Emily tightly.
Daughter, my daughter.
She must have thought of Emily's tragic end and cried her heart out. They cried together, and Linda, with tears and snot, said,
Your dad went to the temple these past few days, praying and donating money. Maybe it worked. Thank goodness you didn't marry that beast. There's still time.
As she spoke, Linda's expression turned fierce.
When your dad comes back, we'll make them pay. This can't go unpunished.
At that moment, there was a sudden loud knocking on the door, breaking the quiet night.
Emily, come out. You've been with others and now you act all high and mighty. Get out here.
Emily listened carefully. It was Mary, Michael's mother, her mother-in-law from her past life. That old woman had tormented her a lot.
You shameless woman. Michael said you had boyfriends in college. You're not even worth mentioning, and yet my kind-hearted family still wants you. How dare you be so shameless? I'm telling you, if you know what's good for you, come back with me quietly. Otherwise, I'll let everyone in the village know how disgraceful you are.
Evelyn's voice was sharp and piercing, carried far by the wind. Linda, who had just finished crying, was now so angry that she was about to go to the kitchen to get a knife.
That old hag, I'll fight her.
I quickly grabbed Linda.
Mom, don't be impulsive. We can't fall into her trap.
Evelyn might be uneducated, but she was a master of causing trouble and making a scene. Even if you were in the right, you couldn't win against her. In my previous life, I had deep conflicts with her. Michael pretended to stand by my side and scold her, making me feel sweet inside and more obedient to him. But now I realized that Evelyn was just his pawn, doing his bidding while he watched my reactions from behind. Sure enough, after a long while of shouting, Michael's voice suddenly appeared, trying to stop her.
Mom, what are you doing here? Who told you to come?
I can't stand it anymore. You're at home, not eating or drinking for this woman, and Tommy is crying all the time. This woman is just playing with you.
This is between Anna and me. I truly love her. Stop saying these things. Do you want to drive me to despair?
They were putting on a show, one ruining my reputation so I couldn't stay in the village, and the other pretending to be deeply in love to make me grateful. But having lived another life, I no longer cared about reputation. Nothing was more important than staying alive. If I ended up in a bad situation, who would care about my dignity? I quickly walked to the courtyard gate and shouted.
Michael, stop saying those grandiose words. Don't you know why I won't be with you?
The chaotic noise outside suddenly stopped. The villagers who had come to watch the commotion were all ears, wanting to know what was going on. Even Michael was puzzled.
Emily, I want to know what I did to offend you. Weren't we fine yesterday? You even said you wanted to help take care of Tommy and live happily as a family.
Happily? You're a man who can't perform. Why should I live happily with you? Marry you and live a lonely life.
I suddenly opened the courtyard gate, and Michael's stunned face appeared in front of me. The villagers exchanged excited glances, eager to see the drama unfold.
Since everyone is here and Evelyn insists on slandering me, I'll say it straight. The reason I'm not with Michael is that he's not a real man. I'm the only daughter in my family. I need to carry on the family line. If he can't even do that, why should I marry him?
My body was still trembling, but hatred suppressed my fear. If they wanted to ruin me, I'd strike first. After all, I could leave the village anytime, and I wouldn't hear the gossip. But Michael's family wouldn't be so lucky. The crowd murmured, almost openly.
I wondered why they were so close before, and suddenly, I didn't expect Michael, who looks tall and strong, to be incapable.
It's strange. He hasn't married for so many years. I thought it was for his son, but it turns out it's because of himself.
I was going to introduce a relative to him. Good thing I didn't. That would have been a disaster.
Michael trembled with anger.
You're lying. I never touched you. How do you know if I'm capable or not?
Didn't your mom just call me disgraceful? Isn't that what you told her? If you never touched me, how would you know?
Michael was at a loss. Rachel's dog was famous for being protective. Rachel was a widow, and widows often face trouble. To prevent any issues, she had her brother buy this wolf dog from a specialized fighting dog base. Its teeth gleamed in the night, looking very fierce. Rachel had also been invited over by me, with a ready-made excuse.
Sister-in-law, you know it's just me and Linda at home. John is still on the mountain out of town and won't be back until tomorrow. I'm afraid if a thief breaks in tonight, what will we do? Blackie only listens to you. We'll feel safer with you here.
You're afraid of Michael's family seeking revenge, aren't you?
I sighed and admitted it. Rachel, however, comforted me.
It's not a big deal. This is just the beginning. Life is long. Besides, Michael looks decent. Don't worry too much.
Blackie, if someone breaks in, don't hold back. I'll give you extra bones.
The wolf dog wagged its tail at me as if it understood. That night, the darkness enveloped everything, and the sound of insects was incessant. I tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep, my heart pounding.
I felt something was going to happen.
Click, click, a faint sound came from outside. Though it was brief, I immediately jumped out of bed. Linda, lying next to me, also sprang up as if electrified.
Mom/daughter, why aren't you asleep?
We spoke in unison and realized we had both been awake. Knowing how ruthless that family was, how could we sleep? We quietly hid by the window and opened a small gap. Tommy's voice, not yet changed, came through the wind.
Stupid woman, living in such a big yard, who knows which room she's in?
Another voice replied, cold and calculated.
Humph, I'll search room by room. When I find her, I'll deal with her and the old woman. Anyway, I won't get in trouble for it.
Seeing the knife in Tommy's hand, Linda and I held each other's trembling hands.
He's truly a born villain.
Tommy walked with the knife, looking like a demon in the moonlight. Just as he approached the door.
Woof. Woof woof.
Blackie suddenly lunged, baring its teeth in a threatening manner. Tommy was startled.
Damn it! Why is there a dog?
His courage was greater than most. After a brief scare, he quickly recovered, becoming even more ferocious, waving the knife to scare Blackie away. But this action only angered Blackie. It jumped and bit Tommy's leg hard.
Ah!
Tommy's scream was deafening, but Linda and I both breathed a sigh of relief. The continuous screams woke the neighbors, even George came.
What on earth is going on here?
Blackie finally let go. Tommy, the troublemaker, covered his wound and pointed at me.
It's her. She tricked me here and then set the dog on me. Uncle George, I don't want this bad woman as my mom anymore.
Michael and Evelyn had also come prepared. Hearing Tommy's words, Evelyn sat on the ground, clapping her hands like a frog, crying and wailing.
This wicked woman. It's not enough that she slanders us, now she wants to harm my only child. She's trying to drive me to my grave.
She even threatened to take drastic measures, and the people around hurried to stop her. George's face turned grim. After all, we didn't live in the village often. Compared to us, Michael, who was a teacher, held more weight in his heart.
I say, Emily's family, even if the marriage didn't work out, there's no need for enmity. We're all neighbors. Tommy is still a child. No matter what, you shouldn't have hurt him.
Emily, if you have a problem, come at me. Don't hurt the child.
They even threatened to call the authorities, saying this matter wasn't over. George's expression grew more severe. He didn't want to complicate things further and turned to persuade me.
Let's send the child to the hospital first. This is your fault. There's no need to make it worse. Just pay some compensation.
Inside, the tension was palpable. Linda was furious, and I squeezed her hand gently.
How much do you think is appropriate?
Evelyn's eyes gleamed with greed as she held up 5 fingers.
50,000.
Everyone was shocked at the high amount, but Michael thought it wasn't enough.
Tommy is so young. Who knows if he'll have lasting effects or disabilities? Emily, I heard your dad wants you to take a government job in the future. You wouldn't want a criminal record, right? I'm not asking for much, but for the child's future recovery and nutrition, at least 100,000.
100,000? At least? Evelyn nodded repeatedly.
Yes, yes, I was too modest earlier.
George looked troubled but still turned to us.
What do you think?
Uncle Mark, our family donates a lot of money to the village every year for road repairs. How come you're siding with Michael? Do you believe everything they say? Who let Tommy in? He came here on his own, and you didn't see the knife beside him? He was going to use it on us.
Everyone was stunned, their eyes falling on the shiny kitchen knife nearby.
I didn't. You're lying.
Tommy stammered, unable to explain, but Michael lied with a straight face.
Auntie, you said your kitchen knives weren't sharp and you didn't have a whetstone, so I asked Tommy to bring one over. But instead of being grateful, you said your dog on him and now accuse us. Isn't that too much?
The crowd was silent, and some people quietly advised Linda.
Hey, your family has money. Just consider it paying for peace. No need to make it ugly.
Yes, and you said Michael isn't capable. He only has one son. If something happens, won't he go crazy? Just give a little compensation.
Linda and I were shaking with anger. We had always been polite and helpful to the village, but now, in this critical moment, they could see something was wrong but still sided with Michael.
So today you believe it's our fault?
George coughed, avoiding eye contact.
Mainly, David's reputation is already. Which girl would marry him now? Since your engagement fell through, you should compensate them. Besides, no matter what happened, the child is genuinely hurt. Just consider it medical expenses.
I finally understood. Michael's reputation was damaged, making it hard for him to find a wife, so George wanted to use this opportunity to force us to pay, appeasing Michael at our expense. Couldn't he see the strangeness of this situation? Even if we lacked knives, would we borrow from a sworn enemy? George could see it, and everyone else could too. But we didn't live in the village and would leave in a few days, while Michael's family would stay. No one wanted to offend them for us. They enjoyed our financial help but chose their own interests when it mattered. After all, they didn't have to pay anything themselves. But just then, a voice came from behind.
Michael, I never thought you were this kind of person.
I turned to see Rachel stepping out, wrapping her coat tightly, frowning.
I saw everything. Your child came with a knife to harm, muttering about how harming isn't illegal. Did you teach him that?
Rachel's appearance stunned Michael's family. They didn't expect someone else to be there.
You're talking nonsense. What does this have to do with you?
Emily was worried something might happen, so she insisted I bring Blackie and stay over for a night. I wondered what could happen, but I didn't expect you to do something so shameless. Uncle Mark, you should know better. Why do you believe everything Michael says? Just because he's your grandson's teacher?
What are you talking about? How am I biased? I haven't even mentioned your dog biting people.
Yes, you should pay up. You must have taken their money to slander us. Women like you deserve to be alone forever.
Rachel's chest heaved with anger. She hated being called a jinx. Her husband had been in poor health before marrying her, but after he passed away, everyone blamed her. Countless troubles and rumors forced her to stay away from people for years, living only with Blackie.
Rachel, think carefully. We're all from the same village. Don't make life difficult for a bit of money.
Shut up. I know right from wrong. This kid now knows he won't get in trouble for hurting people. Aren't you afraid he'll use a knife on you next time?
This sobered the crowd a bit. Some moved away from Michael's family.
Stop stirring up trouble. Everyone in the village knows me. My son Tommy may be mischievous, but he's not capable of what you're accusing him of. He wouldn't dare hurt anyone.
Tommy, playing along, wiped his eyes, looking pitiful. His acting skills were inherited from Michael. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been so foolish to marry him in my past life. Now, the fence-sitters started to support Michael again.
We all know what kind of person Mr. Michael is. It's understandable that you, being away, don't know. Tommy grew up here. He wouldn't do such things.
Anyway, my family hasn't offended him. Even if he does hurt someone, it won't be us.
Rachel, you have no children, so you're not afraid of offending Mr. Michael. But we have to entrust our kids to him. Think carefully. Maybe you misheard. Outsiders aren't welcome here.
In a few words, they pressured Rachel to change her story. She was so angry she almost fainted. I quickly supported her, feeling utterly disappointed. Are you forcing us to accept this injustice?
If you want to leave without paying, you'll have to step over me. My grandson is hurt, and you can't leave without paying.
The crowd also urged us to pay up for peace, not to argue with Evelyn.
If the amount is too much, I can mediate. After all, it was your dog that bit someone.
At that moment, a loud voice came from outside the courtyard.
Well, Uncle Mark. You used to say the Lees and the Lius were like family. Is this how you bully my wife and daughter when I'm not around?
George trembled and turned around to see John storming in, flanked by two burly men and a well-dressed man who looked quite refined. Seeing my father, my tears fell uncontrollably, filled with regret and guilt, especially when I saw the red mark on his forehead from bowing. It pained me deeply. With his arrival, the crowd's attitude changed immediately.
Mr. Lee, what are you saying? I'm just trying to mediate. You almost became in-laws. There's no need to make it ugly.
So you think it's okay to insult them?
John looked around sternly.
I rushed here overnight and heard everything outside. Michael, are you trying to extort money?
Uncle, you're mistaken. I'm just seeking justice for my child.
Someone said Tommy wanted to hurt someone. She heard it herself. What justice do you have?
Just because she said it, it's true. Does having money make you right?
If necessary, call the police. My son is too young to do such things. But if Mr. Lee's company gets involved in such scandals, it won't look good.
Fine, call the police. I knew you were trouble, so I brought a lawyer. Let's see what you can do.
Michael turned pale, realizing the well-dressed man was a lawyer. But he wasn't easily intimidated and quickly sneered.
So what if you have a lawyer? What evidence do you have that Tommy did it? He's too young to hurt anyone.
At that moment, I pointed to a hidden corner under the eaves. Forgot to mention, my father is meticulous. To prevent theft and other issues, our courtyard and house are equipped with cameras. Michael's eyes widened instantly, as if he had swallowed a fly.
You never told me?
I had long forgotten why I didn't mention it back then, probably thinking it was an insignificant matter. But I never expected it to be useful at such a moment. The lawyer, seeing an opportunity, immediately began calculating.
This child attempted something very serious. Although he's too young to be sentenced as his guardian, you are liable for civil compensation. Moreover, demanding $1 million in compensation is extortion, and with an amount exceeding $30,000, it could lead to a prison sentence of over 10 years.
What about the people around here? Are they considered accomplices?
As soon as she said this, the people who had spoken earlier immediately began to plead.
Please, Rachel, we were deceived by that scoundrel Michael. You can't blame us.
I always thought he was no good. I report that the time Anna almost fell into the canal and drowned, it was Michael's plan. I was napping in the wheat field and heard him plotting with someone to push her in with a donkey cart.
I gasped, remembering that I fell in love with Michael because he saved me in a critical moment. I thought I had met a hero, but it turned out he was a fraud from the start.
Disgusting. I can't live in the same village as someone like him.
The crowd cursed angrily, distancing themselves from Michael and his family. With everyone turning against him, Michael became the target of everyone's hatred. Evelyn was completely dumbfounded, her mouth agape, unable to utter a word. Michael's lips trembled as he took a step forward, adopting a deeply affectionate look.
Emily, we had a relationship. I loved you too much. Tommy didn't mean any harm, he was just joking around. He wouldn't really hurt anyone. He's injured now, so he's been punished. Can we just let this go? Please.
John stared at me without blinking, afraid I would soften. Linda held my hand tightly. I took a step forward, and Michael's face lit up with joy.
You're agreeing, right? I knew you weren't a heartless woman. You must still like me. This was all a misunderstanding.
Before he could finish, I slapped him hard.
What relationship? The one where you wanted to end my life? How did Tommy know he wouldn't be jailed for his age? You taught him. You make me sick. Rest assured, my family won't let this go. You'll rot in prison.
Michael, furious, tried to hit me, but a burly man behind my dad restrained him. As I said, my family wouldn't let Michael off the hook. We packed up and left the village that night. Before we left, George wanted to say something, but my parents ignored him and only took Rachel and her dog, Blackie, with us. Rachel was arranged to manage our family's restaurant. She quickly adapted to her new job with her straightforward and honest nature. Blackie was well taken care of, looking more majestic than ever. Michael was entangled in lawsuits and tried to find me several times, but he couldn't even get to our door. He kept sending me long, emotional messages from different numbers, all of which I blocked and deleted. At the first trial, my family accompanied me to court. Before the session started, Michael suddenly rushed over and knelt in front of me with a thud.
Emily, I was out of my mind, but it was all because of my feelings for you.
Tommy also wiped his tears with the back of his hand, calling out to me repeatedly.
Mom, don't abandon me. I'll listen to you from now on.
Watching their disgusting performance, I thought of my miserable past life and felt no sympathy.
Don't call me Mom. I can't give birth to beasts. It's not up to me how the court rules, it's up to the law.
Michael crawled a few more steps, blocking my way.
Emily, the lawyer said if you are willing to give me a letter of forgiveness, it would be best to drop the charges.
A letter of forgiveness? Just like the one Michael wrote as my husband after I was harmed in my past life? Before I could respond, John stepped in front of Michael with a stern face.
Stop being shameless, or I'll call the court officers.
Michael reluctantly stood up, glaring at me with hatred. But this time, I wasn't afraid. Instead, I gave him a provocative look. In court, although the evidence clearly proved Michael's family's extortion, since we didn't suffer actual losses, Michael was only sentenced to 3 years, with a suspended sentence. However, with a criminal record, Michael could never be a teacher again. Such a person didn't deserve to be an educator. But my parents were not satisfied with the result and planned to appeal. As I walked out of the courtroom, Michael suddenly blocked my way.
Emily, can't we part on good terms? Why do you have to be so ruthless?
What do you want?
Won't you forgive me? We almost got married. They say a day as a couple means 100 days of grace.
Spare me your dreams.
Michael snorted heavily.
Then don't blame me for being heartless.
He glanced behind me, and I saw Tommy pulling out a hidden knife from the bushes, rushing towards me. For a moment, I was stunned, and Michael's face showed a cold smile.
3 years in prison for your life, it's worth it.
But at the critical moment, I narrowly dodged to the side, and Tommy, unable to stop, stabbed Michael in the abdomen with the knife. Michael's eyes were filled with shock, while Tommy finally showed a child's panic, calling out for his dad.
Michael, this is your retribution.
To remove the shadow and prevent future troubles, I had taken self-defense classes during this time, never slacking off, rain or shine. At least my reflexes had improved. Court officers arrived, pinning Tommy, who tried to retaliate with the knife, to the ground. Evelyn, who had been watching the drama unfold, didn't expect her son to become the center of the stage. She rushed over, crying and wailing. This time, it was genuine. My parents hurriedly took me away. This family was truly sinister and malicious, not to be involved with at all. I later learned the follow-up from Rachel. It turned out that the knife Tommy used to try to kill me was coated with a deadly poison. He never intended for me to survive. But unexpectedly, it backfired, and Michael died in the hospital. When the villagers learned about Tommy's actions, they were horrified. This child dared to harm his own father. Hurting others would be like slaughtering chickens or ducks. As Rachel had said, at his age, even serious crimes wouldn't be punished severely. Soon, on a dark and windy night, Tommy was ambushed, and his legs were broken. But with no clues and possibly too many people involved, the matter was dropped under George's persuasion. It was in line with George's usual style. But how did Rachel, who had left the village, know so much? I soon found out. One day, I went to a hotel to find Linda. Just at the entrance, I saw Rachel arguing with someone.
Stop asking me to mediate. I'm just a worker. I can't make decisions.
Looking closely, I saw it was George's eldest son, Peter, who was smiling apologetically, looking just like his father. The man had a fawning look on his face.
Come on, Rachel, don't be mad. If I could find Mr. Lee, I wouldn't be bothering you. The harvest wasn't good this year, and we can't afford to repair the drying yard. In the past, Mr. Lee's family.
Rachel crossed her arms and sneered.
Now you come begging? The village is full of ingrates. Where was this talk when you were helping Michael extort money?
You're from the village too. You can't forget your roots just because you're doing well now. I heard you make $20,000 to $30,000 a month. What use is that money to a widow? Many people in the village want to work. Can you help arrange something?
Get lost. What I earn is none of your business. If you dare come to me again, I'll call the police and report you for harassment.
Peter, the village head's eldest son, panicked.
How can you say such things? Have you no shame? Don't you care about your reputation as a woman?
Reputation? What good is that? You think we're still in the village? Back there, if I talked to someone for too long, you'd gossip. Let me tell you, that doesn't work anymore.
Rachel pretended to dial the police, and Peter hurriedly fled. Rachel's voice chased after him.
Tell those villagers to stop bothering me, or I'll deal with each one of them.
When she turned and saw me, Rachel's expression softened, and she looked like a different person.
Anna, don't be scared. I'm not usually like this. It's just that the villagers keep pestering me, and they insist on telling me about Michael's situation. They're not really talking to me. They're trying to get to you.
I understand. The village head had approached John several times but got nowhere. Now they regretted it. They used to think our family was an easy target, but after what happened with Michael, they realized we were tougher than they thought.
It's okay. I'll call Dad later and have him send over a couple of security guards. If they dare bother you again, we'll throw them out. No need to trouble yourselves. I can handle it alone. You trust me, and I won't cause you any trouble. Don't worry. Anna, now that Michael's family can't bother you anymore, what are your plans?
I might go to graduate school. I plan to move to a bigger city and see more of the world.
What about marriage?
After this experience, I don't think I'll settle down anytime soon. As for the future, we'll see.
I expected Rachel to try to persuade me, but she was even more enthusiastic than I was.
Good. That's how it should be. No matter who says you're of age and should get married, don't listen. Just follow your own heart. When I was young, I didn't understand. When I got older, my family didn't want to keep me and married me off for a dowry. That man passed away in 2 years, and my mother-in-law blamed me and kicked me out. I spent half my life trapped in that village, as if my entire fate hinged on that one marriage. But once I left, I realized how vast the world is. We can't be confined by such a small space.
We smiled at each other, feeling the sky brighten a bit.
Yes, marrying Michael was influenced by those old thoughts. Every time I returned to the village, people would say that a girl my age would have been a mother long ago. Michael saved me, and the idea of repaying him with my life flashed through my mind. But why impose such limitations on myself? Once married, your fate is almost in someone else's hands. They can decide your life and death, not only writing letters of forgiveness for the perpetrator, but also signing off on your surgery.
I realized that this fortunate new beginning wasn't just about revenge against Michael's family, it was about finding myself again. Looking up at the dazzling sun, all the gloom seemed to dissipate. I felt my life was about to start anew.